Alright, so we're completing the square again. This is part 2. If you haven't already checked out part 1, make sure you do. Now, this time we're not just completing the square, but we're factorising by completing the square. So we're taking this expression, x squared minus 8x minus 3, and we're going to factorise it by completing the square. Now, you might think to yourself, why don't I just factorise it using the AC method, this method here? Well, unfortunately you can't. There's no number that when multiplied makes negative 3 and when added together makes negative 8. So using the cross method or decomposition or the AC method, whatever you call it, it's not going to work in this. So we need something different, and completing the square is our best option. Now, x squared minus 8x minus 3. We're going to complete the square on this. Now, you're probably looking at it going, but there's a negative 3 here. Last time we completed the square, we didn't have a constant. We had a question mark there. Well, we can still complete the square here. We're just going to kind of ignore this negative 3 for now. So, we need to ask ourselves, x squared minus 8x, and then we need to add in the magic number. Alright, so just over here I'm going to calculate my magic number. Magic number equals b, which is negative 8, over 2 squared. So that's going to be negative 4 squared. Now, negative 4 squared is positive 16. Don't make the mistake here. It's not negative. Alright, we know our magic number. Our magic number is 16. So what we're going to do is something really strange. We're going to add it and we're going to subtract it. So I'm going to do it in a different coloured pen so you can see what's happening. Equals x squared minus 8x plus 16 minus 16 minus 3. Now the reason I'm adding and subtracting it is because I need it in there so I can complete the square. But I have to cancel it out as well because I want the expression to stay the same. I still want it to be x squared minus 8x minus 3. And if I add and subtract 16, then I'm not changing it. I'm adding 16, I'm subtracting 16, so it's still the same. Okay, good. Next step. I have x squared minus 8x plus 16 minus 3. Now I can look at this in two different ways, and the reason I put it in the middle here is so you can look at it this way. We have this section here, the first 3 terms, that's a perfect square. And then we have this section here, which is the leftovers. So, x squared minus 8x plus 16, in brackets, that's going to be x. The square root of 16 is 4, but it needs to be negative because my middle term is negative. Negative 4 squared. A cheater's way is just to look at the value here. That's the value that's going to be that one here. Negative 4, negative 4. And then, so that's these 3 terms all done. And then what's left over? Negative 16, negative 3, that's negative 19. Alright, that's looking pretty good, but it's not really factorised yet. Now, we need to sort of cheat a little bit to make this thing get factorised. We've got x minus 4 squared minus 19. Now, we need to make this into a difference of 2 squares. So, this is a square number, x minus 4 squared minus 19. Now, 19 isn't a square number, but technically any number could be a square number, as long as you write it correctly. So, x minus 4 squared. I'm going to turn negative 19 into negative the square root of 19 squared. Now, the square root of 19 squared is just 19. So now I have the difference of 2 squares. I have x minus 4 squared minus the square root of 19 squared. Now, you've done difference of 2 squares before, and you should know that the difference of 2 squares is the same as the first number, x minus 4, plus the square root of the second number, So plus root 19 times the first number, x minus 4, minus the square root of 19. That's the difference of two squares. Okay, that's factorized. X minus 4 plus root 19, x minus 4 minus root 19. Done. Now this second example here, now it's important that we go through this one. I'm going to go through it much, much faster. X squared plus 2x plus 8 is equal to x squared plus 2x, there's a plus 8 on the end here, and I need to decide what to put in the middle to complete the square. So the magic number, it's half of this, so 2 divided by 2 is 1, squared is 1. So we need to add 1, and we need to subtract 1. That was our magic number of 1. X squared plus 2x plus 1, that's going to be x plus 1 squared, and I'm left here with negative 1 plus 8, which is plus 7. Alright, now the question said, factorize the following by completing the square if possible. Now, I've gotten to this x plus 1 squared plus 7. And you remember my next step in the other question was to turn it into a difference of two squares and create this brackets here. But a difference of two squares must have a minus in it. This one doesn't have a minus in it. So, unfortunately, this is as far as I can get with this one. I just go, not possible to factorize. Now, I have completed the square. That's called completing the square. But I haven't been able to factorize it. So this is good up to here. This is completing the square up to here, and then that's factorizing as you go further down. Completing the square.